I've seen your CRM too, and I like how it visually shows your KPIs and your data.
Yeah.
Not just looking at like an Excel sheet saying just numbers. It'll show it in charts, or I'm sure you can customize it however you want it.
Yeah. Then it makes it obvious, right? Like there's always a problem. There's something I've learned along the way. Probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned in starting a company and companies is like there's always problems, right? You got to have stamina to navigate them because they will never go away. And there is no graduation day. But if there are problems, just show me what they are so then I can actually fix it. Like I'll face them, but I need to know what they are exactly for me to actually be able to fix it for good. And then I'll be on to the next one, right?
This is Eat, Sleep, Invest, the marketing podcast for real estate investors to get more deals. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Eat, Sleep, and Invest. I'm your host, Brian Driscoll, and I'm here with Stephanie Betters. What's going on, Stephanie?
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. Glad to have you on here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so for everybody listening, Stephanie owns Left Main. A lot of our clients use Left Main. Why don't you give us a little bit of background on like everything you guys do?
So kind of quick story on Left Main, that developing this tool really kind of came from a place of need and better technology in real estate. And that's kind of become my passion now, is really elevating the technology that we use in this space and leveraging it, where our industry in general is behind, as I'm sure you agree, with a lot of the tech that's available to other companies. So we developed Left Main in 2020, January 2020 we launched. And basically what it is it's a pre-built app on Salesforce that's turnkey for real estate investors. Now, turnkey is kind of a loaded thing, right? That means different things to different people. Some people, that's 200% of what they'd ever need, with a ton of automation, integration capability, like the whole pipeline from marketing all the way to transactions, dispo. And some people, depending on how complex their business is, it's 80% of what they need, right? But the idea is this has now made Salesforce and the whole Salesforce platform accessible to our industry. Previously, you'd spend $100,000 plus trying to build something out on that platform. So it kind of precluded all of us from using that tool, which is really sad. We're small companies and we can't spend $100,000 on a tech platform, and then I think we've missed out on a lot. So really the purpose and the passion behind building it and getting it priced and Salesforce partnering up and getting that, to the finish line for our industry has been about making this kind of thing accessible, and built out and stubbed out for what you'd want it to be, and then have a lot of cool tools in there that you may need if you want to grow or you want to scale. So it's kind of a little bit of like a process in a box, Yeah,
Salesforce is no joke.
No,
I remember back, I was in the insurance industry a while ago, family business, right? I signed up for Salesforce. I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to set up a CRM. Man, is there a lot of stuff. It's pretty much just an open source software that you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, which is really neat, but it can be overwhelming, right? And it's very specialized. So if you want to have somebody build it out for you, it's extremely expensive, So it's a beautiful thing because it can literally do anything. If you imagine something that you want to integrate or be built in, it can be done. So it's amazing, but then that's almost too dangerous, right? That you could just get in all these different rabbit holes. So I'm thrilled to have a solution on the platform because we can build it and then we can deliver it to people that, makes it accessible. And then you can grow into this thing for the rest of your career. You don't have to, and that was kind of the cycle before, I kind of went through a bunch of different CRMs, like jumping around. I would outgrow one, something would break, didn't have the integration capability to an important tool for me, and then I ended up moving. So the nice thing about this is it's like a permanent home. You can't outgrow this thing. Anybody can outgrow Salesforce. I want to meet them.
Right. And you know what? Because I see it from the lead side. So we generate leads for people, right? And I see one of the main downfalls are people's follow-ups, not having automations, not calling people quick enough, not organizing. Like some guys tell me, we're organizing everything in Google Sheets. Like that's fine if you're dealing with like 5 leads a month. But if you're trying to scale, you need automations and email drips and text message and a way to keep your team organized, you organized. So That's where I really like your product, because you take Salesforce and make it usable for normal people.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, the automation is critical, right? We all know that the time to contact the first lead, like when the lead first comes in, it's like you have 5 minutes or less before that person is gone, you know? I like to joke around and tell our team that, the leads, when they're online, they're on the toilet, right? You need to reach them before they wipe. Like, you got to get there, right? Because that's what brings their attention. But so the automation that happens as soon as the lead enters into your hemisphere is extremely important. But also some metrics that how your team handles it once you have that, right? Automation will get you a certain distance, and you definitely need it. But then what's also been really interesting to look at is, okay, what percentage of the time do you actually get a hold of somebody? And how many times did it take for you to attempt to contact someone, manually, with a personal phone call and automation, for you to actually get in contact with them? How many attempts did it take? Those two metrics were extremely eye-opening for me in running Better Path Homes. Better Path Homes is a company based out of Charlotte. That's kind of what stimulated the whole, need for Left Main. It was my real estate company. And what we looked at was when we actually got data we could make decisions on. That was a huge one. Okay, we had all these leads coming in, but did we actually get a hold of them? And it was staggering how low, like the low percentage we actually got a hold of people. I mean, we were like 50%. All this hanging and trying to generate a lead, and then we never got a hold of them. And, part of it was, the time to the first attempt to contact somebody. But the big part was how many times did it take? That was a huge part. Initially, I was like, 3, 4, 5 times is what it takes to get a hold of somebody, text, email, call, like all the things, right? 14.
Really?
14 attempts on average. Now, we'll say the market, now, we're doing this in November, almost December. The market's a little bit cooler, so it's less, but not by much. It's like 12. So, we have to reach these people so many times, and you can't physically do that if you have 100 leads, let alone, 5,000 leads that you're trying to work. You physically can't, keep track of that unless you have a really good system, and then you can hold your team accountable to those metrics,
Right. I even look at, too, say you're doing Google pay-per-click advertising and people are in bed scrolling at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Right? They fill out your form. You're not replying to them until the morning, like you're sleeping.
Right.
But they're going to click that first website, then the second one, and keep filling people's out unless you can divert them away.
Right.
So you have to have process, like automations in there that's going to text them or email them immediately saying, hey, you want to book an appointment or whatever you want to say.
Right. Let them get further down the funnel,
Right.
At the very least.
So how'd you get into this?
It was completely based out of my own need for Better Path Homes. This was a few years ago. This was like 2019 is when I got into Salesforce and building out that CRM for us. And it was because I didn't have access to data like I needed. My background is actually medicine. I'm a nurse practitioner. Cardiothoracic surgery is my specialty. Love it. And, in the medical field, we're used to electronic medical records. I'm used to data. Like, I can make really good decisions if I have lab values, vital signs, like history, like the whole thing, right? Like, I have the whole picture and then I make a decision. And, in training, like, you don't make a decision until you have enough information, right? Like, you don't just like go willy-nilly make diagnoses, right? Like, you have to have, information to make your conclusion. And so that's just kind of how I'm wired. That kind of like if then this type thing. And I felt like that was completely abandoned in our company. We were just kind of, I heard about this from somebody, so I'm going to try it. I don't understand. So I'm just going to like rip off somebody else's system and I'm just going to replicate it and it's going to go well. Right. That doesn't go well. So what ended up where I was we were doing, 50 deals a year, a couple $1 million a year in revenue. And we're spending $60,000 a month on marketing. Like, do that math. Like, the margins are skinny, right? And I was just like, I don't even know what's working. I don't know if this postcard generated an ROI. I couldn't even have that information, And I just felt like we were just bleeding money, hoping that something would stick. And I was just trying stuff that I didn't understand or like really know how to measure. And one day I just snapped. I'm like, I literally have Google Sheets. I have people scrubbing my CRM to like put stuff on a Google sheet, and then that Google sheet is wrong. And then like, I just felt just completely out of control. And I was so scared, like there's people, we have people that work for us. We're spending all this money, like, and we feel like we're flying blind. So it really I just needed better information and so I could make better decisions. And that kind of led me down this path to Salesforce, because I was like, what's the number one CRM? I'm tired of all these guru things. Like, what is it? Indisputably the number one CRM in the world is Salesforce. But I tried to go like the traditional route. Like, I'm just going to like get a developer to do this, and that's when I got sticker shock. It's like, that's crazy. I can't afford that, and 6-month build times. I'm like, I need something yesterday. So I've long story short, I've like flipped out on the call with the Salesforce team, and I was like, I'm just going to do it myself. And then they all laughed. They all thought that was really funny. And I'm like, oh man, now I'm really going to do it, So then I built it. And then 3 months later, we launched it for our team. And Salesforce came back and asked about it and followed up with me. I showed them, and then, they were like, do you want to partner? And I was like, I don't even know what that means. That was never even on the radar. And then it took us down this whole path of doing this for other people, which has been incredibly rewarding,
Yeah, and it's helping a lot of people. I'm seeing T-shirts around now. I think on Benmont. If it's not in Salesforce, it didn't happen.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really humbling to have something to put back out in the community. Like I was saying earlier, I felt like I was just a taker for a really long time, like just trying to absorb everything. How are you doing it? Why is that working for you? And us just trying to figure it out, So it's really amazing to be able to give back something as a tool that, we made. And it's not the best thing for everybody, right? Except everyone has their opinion on what works for them. That's totally okay. But it's like a great solution, so for the subset of people that choose it. So it's cool. It's really neat to be able to put something back out.
Yeah, I like it too. And I like also, so I've seen all these different CRMs, right? And I've seen your CRM too. And I like how it visually shows your KPIs and your data.
Yeah.
Not just looking at like an Excel sheet saying just numbers. It'll show it in charts, or I'm sure you can customize it however you want it.
Yeah.
But that's really cool seeing it visually.
Yeah. Yeah, then it makes it obvious, right? Like there's always a problem. There's something I've learned along the way. Probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned in starting a company and companies is like, there's always problems, right? You got to have stamina to navigate them, because they will never go away. And there is no graduation day. But if there are problems, just show me what they are, so then I can actually fix it. Like, I'll face them, but I need to know what they are exactly for me to actually be able to fix it for good. And then I'll be on to the next one, right?
Yeah.
But that's that. I wanted it to be super obvious. I want to be able to just anywhere in the world, be able to pull up my dashboard and just tell me where I'm at. Like, what is it that I need to do here? What do I need to facilitate as a leader, as an owner? Who do I need to talk to or follow up with? And then just make it that obvious, what freaking dig and go for information and then question its validity. And it's too difficult for that,
Yeah, that's true too, because you can make decisions so much easier if you have the information.
Yeah, that's it.
Like, okay, I see this at the bottleneck. It's like, okay, we get leads and it takes us 5 minutes to call them and there's a drop.
Right.
Okay, we need to solve that. We need to get them in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is,
Right, exactly. Or, hey, the average time to actually get somebody on the phone is 20, and we're only trying 5. Okay, well, there we go. We just need to try more, right? We need to call more, right? Or more frequently every day, instead of just putting them into a follow-up sequence that doesn't touch them except for once a month. Like, then it's going to take, 6 months to get a hold of them.
So you work with your husband, right?
Yeah, well, I used to. So we started off by founding, Better Path Homes. We have a third partner there too. Long story short, my husband and I had a wholesaling company and a flipping company. And in 2018, we merged with Jeff Johnson, who was doing new builds and flips too. So we merged in 2018. And I was a COO, and Zach, my husband, was a CEO, which was great. We're a really great team. We did that. I'm trying to think. We did our first flip in 2007. So we worked really closely together for many years, but it got to a point where, there was really no home boundaries, and, we have 3 children, and especially at the time when we started, they were very young. And I just felt like I wasn't doing the role justice, because I wanted to like hide from him, He's the typical like, oh, this idea, that idea, we should do this. And I was like, oh my God, I need to hide. I'm still doing the other idea, you know? And they're all great ideas. So it just kind of got too much. So we decided that we would kind of like draw some sort of line, like, okay, at this time, we're going to hire out my role and I'm going to just kind of step out and be an owner and whatever, right? I'll still be part of it, but I'm just not going to have that as an active role. So we decided that would be 2020. And then I just go ahead and start another company, right? But we worked very closely together on that for many years. And it's right now kind of our relationship and our businesses, it's kind of cool. We're kind of like the board of directors for each other. So, of course, he knows everything that's happening with Left Main, but he doesn't have an active role at all. And I know everything that's happening with Better Path Homes, but I don't have an active role. So we can kind of meet each other on like CEO to CEO level. And that's been really healthy. It's still hard, and running a business, it kind of bleeds into everything, but it's really cool, I think, to have each other as like consultants and have a little bit of space that you're not so in the weeds with your business and your personal life all the time. Like everything intermingles, right? Like if he's talking about Better Path Homes at the dinner table, I don't feel like I need to, I feel like I can say, all right, let's put that aside. Like that's not as big a deal because I'm not as in the weeds. Like when you're in it together, you can't even separate it. I don't know if that makes sense, but we find it the boundaries are easier this way. So it's great.
It does. And I grew up in a family business and my parents worked together all my life. So I know what you're talking about because it can be difficult and you don't have boundaries because you're just talking about whatever. And it's interesting that you guys were able to make the choice. It's like, okay, I'm going to hire some of these out because your relationship can kind of deteriorate if you're working together because then it's just a constant, you have your normal life battles and talks and then you're bringing business into it too. It's like, oh man.
I know. It's, and then in the end, it kind of started to feel almost just like we were business partners, because that's all we'd ever talk about, and then you kind of forget the other things just because the business, there's always so much urgency. Like there's always something, personnel problems, money problems, like strategy problems, market changes. Like there's always something and it feels so urgent that it just takes over everything. So it's just so challenging to like just be in a relationship, like a regular relationship, a regular marriage and with children and all that rest and not let that completely overtake it. So, we've learned a lot. I mean, we've had many challenges over the years, but I think that this really works well now,
Yeah. So if anyone's working with their spouse or significant other, what tip would you have for them if they're in the weeds right now and they're like, oh man, this kind of sucks?
Yeah, I think that dating each other is still super important. Like put date time on the calendar. Again, like life just happens to us if we aren't intentional. So dating is really important. That was something that we kind of just like lost control of. Like, when is the last time we went to just go see a movie? So make sure that you keep doing that. And then I think job roles are also really, really important to define. Like, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what you're going to do. And not have each other like cross over and not know who should be doing what. So that one person does it or the other doesn't know, or, it just needs to be really well defined, I think, for it to be healthy. And then, home boundaries, like what's the transition time? Like what time do you come out of your office? Like, okay, this is actually challenging because we all work from home now, right? When I would leave the hospital, for example, or even our office, we still have an office and we used to work there every day, but like you drive home and that was like the transition time, right? And then like, okay, now I'm off. And I think that's even more difficult with COVID. Like, okay, what time are you coming out of the office? And when are we like closing that door? Where are you putting your phone? So just kind of having those boundaries and those like agreements with each other of when things are off and when things are on again,
Yeah, that's so true too, especially working from home. Because I work from home the same. I think a lot of people do now. And it's like, I could work 15 hours a day.
Oh, I know.
It's like you have to stop. Like, it depends on how you're built. I'm built I don't stop.
Me too.
Yeah, and it's just like, and I know a lot of people, especially investors, and like anyone with this type of mentality, it's like you just want to keep going. And that's not fair to your family, things like that. You got to draw those lines. It's like, okay, I know at 5 o'clock, I'm done.
Yeah.
We're eating dinner. I'm hanging with the family till 8. And then if anything else picks up, I can do it after the kids go to bed or something. But
Yeah. Yeah. And we did that for many years, right? Like the kids would go to bed and then we're like, okay, we're out working again, you know? But yeah, I think what's been really cool is now that our kids are school age, like that's the ideal situation. So, we have 2 kids in elementary school and my oldest is in middle school, right for me.
how old are they?
13, 10, and 8.
Okay. Yeah, I got 10, 8, and 7. So
Oh, you're
sure.
yeah. Yeah. Middle school is, oh man, it was hard for me. I think it's hard for girls, but the whole new age with social media. But between their like going to school times and their return to school times, because they're not exactly the same, but essentially everybody's out of the house from like 9 to 2, 9 to 2:30, depending on when the bus comes. So like that is my work schedule, right? Like I will be there in the morning and then I bring them to school, or be there for breakfast or whatever. And then I will be there and like greet them when they get off the bus, like what the heck are we doing this all for if I can't do that? And that's what I want, So that has been really nice for us too. Is like, these are the working hours. And for the most part, like that, we've been able to stick to that. So that's been really great. And I'm just like, I just block my calendar off and I live and die by my calendar. And if there's nothing after that time, especially if it's not urgent, if it's urgent, we all deal with that stuff. But for the most part, those are like our key boundaries. And I feel like our whole family thrives so much better with that.
Yeah. And you're right too. Like you just said it, like, what are you doing it for? It's like, okay, you bust your ass to work. And if you're not at your kid's stuff or hanging out, it's like, what's the point anyways? It's like, it's easy to get distracted and all that.
Right. Yeah. And I think, it just comes down to like, there is always going to be something to do and there will always be something that feels very, very urgent. And like I will always do my absolute best. Like, I feel like I can pretty confidently say that I'm very consistent and like, I just do my best. I don't slack off. I don't try to disappoint people or let people down. I always do my very, very best. And like, that has to be enough, like I can't work 16 hours a day. I can only do my very best, and I think there's been a lot of, I don't know, there's been a little bit of pressure relieved from acknowledging that and being like, okay, it's okay for me to do my best. Like, what else would I ask of my children, And I think that I've learned a lot from them with it, them in school and things and trying to teach them, like, just do your best. And like, that's all I ask, right? I don't want they don't have to get perfect grades. They don't have to be perfect. They don't have to score a goal every soccer game. Like, just go out, do your best and have fun. And I realized like, I don't always take that advice for myself, So I've really tried to think about that and how I approach business too. I'm like, you know what? I do my best. Like, I do my very best. And it's okay for me to have boundaries. And be like, that's it. Like, this is the day now. Now I'm going to be with my children, right? So I don't know. I've learned a lot of lessons from my kids and even trying to listen to my own voice and to them, I'm like, what kind of example am I painting to them if I don't ever stop and ever say like, okay, I did my best. Like, the day is complete,
Yeah. Nah, I'm glad we're talking about this because normally, well, number one, most couples aren't working together with each other, but then people that are, they're just doing it by themselves.
Yeah.
So they don't really get to hear the stories of other people working with spouses. I tried to work with my spouse once. She said, no freaking way. She said, there's absolutely no way I'll ever work with you.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think that's okay too. A lot of guys come up to me and they're like, hey, can you talk to my wife? Can you tell her like, it's okay that we can like do this together and we can go on this adventure? And, a person was like, I'm like, okay, yeah, you can do it. You can work together. But then, you know what? I think it's okay to say no to, and I think about that now that Zach and I have like a CEO type conversation or relationship. That's really healthy too. Like, I have my thing and he has his thing and they are similar, right? Like, we can collaborate. They obviously affect each other very much, but it's not on like an intimate level. Like, I don't have to, follow up on his task that he completed or not, right? Like, we can work side by side. And I think the same is true for, spouses who, take care of the house, or work in a different industry. There's always a way to make that connection and still be really supportive of each other, I think the understanding is really the key. And you can do that regardless of if you're working in the same company or not,
Yeah, and I guess too, it's nice how you guys have it where you're both working together, because if you're in the same company doing the same things, there's always like a balance of power.
Right.
Like, okay, like you were saying, I got to double check tasks, make sure they're done. Then you feel like you're busting his chops or something,
Right.
you know, or whatever, where it's interpreted one way. Some things aren't meant to be interpreted that way, and just gets messy.
Yeah, and like we bicker, right? I'm like, no, and I can't do that in front of other team members, right? And that like undermines him. So I got to be like really careful about. Yeah, I can't roll my eyes, right?
Yeah.
that can be kind of toxic, and like you said, balance of power too. Like, who are they going to ask? Are they going to ask the husband or the wife, right? Because they know that there's an influence on each other in some way, right? So, this one I want to, Stephanie tends to be more lenient. I'm going to go this way, right?
Right, yeah.
So it can be very confusing for the team if you're not like extremely professional, which is hard to do when you're married to each other. And he left his underwear on the ground again last night, and you're just like, he never picks up anything. And, then you get to bring that to work. You have to know, here too. Okay. It's not healthy.
Oh, yeah. It's got a lot of extra emotions than you would normally have with a coworker.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, and I think you can do it very successfully for a while. But I think everybody, if you're working really closely with your spouse, I think it's healthy too to determine like, okay, when are we not going to do this? I think that everybody kind of comes to that point too, of like, okay, are we doing this forever? And if we can't, then how do we designate when the time is going to be to replace one of our goals?
Mm-hmm. That's good. I like it. So you're optimizing life and optimizing CRMs.
Oh, I'm trying. I like it. Part is harder.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, well, we're almost out of time. Is there anything else that we wanted to talk about?
I don't know. I think those are like quick highlights for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of good information there. Yeah. And again, like I said, a lot of our clients use your services too, and they like it. So
that's awesome. Yeah, and we should do more. We should do more together.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, so tell everybody, if they want to reach out or learn about what you do, where do they go? What's your website?
Sure. leftmainrei.co or .com. And at Steph Betters is my Instagram. If you guys want to reach out and hang out. Yeah.
Who's your ideal customer? Like, is it like, what's your ideal investor? Like, where are they at in their business that would make sense?
Oh, super good question. So it depends a little bit. Ideally, this is somebody who's marketing, right? Like you have to be generating off-market properties and have leads that you need to manage. That's really step number one. The investor who buys, 1 or 2 rentals a year probably doesn't need us, right? They can manage their rentals on Quicken or something. But this is definitely for people who are marketing and are generating leads. And that can mean you're doing 10 deals a year. That can mean you're doing 1,000 deals a year. But you definitely have to have urgency in handling your marketing, your leads, your sales process, and your transactions. And it generally comes down to, generating those leads.
Okay. Yeah. So experienced investors that are active.
Yeah. And
gotcha. Primary
newbie, you've been working generally 6 months to a year at least. I don't want to say more than that because I've had plenty of people who come on board and they're like, hey, I left this other company. I'm starting my own. This is exactly what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to be generating these leads. These are my lead sources. And you're like, okay, well then you're a fit. You know this business. But generally people have at least a year of experience just trying to generate and bump their head around a little bit and now are seeking optimization, organization, scalability,
Okay. Yeah. Good to know. So anyone listening, it is running leads, not optimizing them, and you're not calling them. How many times did you say? The average is 14?
14.
Yeah, if you're not connecting with your people at least 14 times, get a hold of Stephanie.
Let's see if we can get that down. I bet you it's higher.
Yeah. Hey, well, thanks for coming on, Stephanie. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, and thanks everyone for listening. Until next time, get out there, crush it, close some deals. Hey, thanks, Stephanie.
Thanks.